My students are often familiar with the idea when you ask them what movies are for. Why does anybody watch a movie anyway? What's the point of getting involved in movies? They're an escape. They're an escape from the real world, and they're supposed to allow you to escape your day-to-day problems and be in a more exciting, adventuresome realm. Alfred Hitchcock, who will be watching several of his movies, said very famously that movies are life with the dull bits cut out. And I would also want to add to that, and all of the ugly people removed. Everybody in movies is gorgeous, and they're so exciting, and so. Um, 2001, though, is art of a different sort. And because movies are so good and so popular and hypnotic, they're hypnotic. We love them. You go in the movie theater and you're like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. They're overwhelmingly entertaining. But it's so entertaining and so successful that people have forgotten movies can do anything other than sell popcorn and entertain you. There are other things that movies could do because they're art. Um, they can be. Um, and 2001 is a movie that is trying to do something other. I do actually think it's entertaining. I would argue that it's a fancy type of entertainment, but in addition to entertaining, it does other things as well. So you might want to think about it as not primarily entertaining, but it's up to other things. It's trying to do something else. That's something else we don't talk about much because we don't see movies like that. This class, the reason I wanted to start this class out with 2001: A Space Odyssey, is to suggest to you that movies can do other things. When I ask my students for their top 20 movies, they're all Marvel movies. Um, and I get it, they're great. But I want you guys to think about other things movies could do. And 2001 is excellent at not being like other movies. There is no movie quite like 2001: A Space Odyssey. There have been about 30 movies that tried to be like 2001: A Space Odyssey, and they all fell short. They didn't quite pull it off. And I'll be talking about that later. Um, so 2001 is a kick in the teeth. I do it to harass my students and bother them, to suggest. And I promise you, the next movie we watch, Rear Window, massively entertaining film. Super good-looking people solving a murder. You're gonna love it. It's one of the most entertaining movies ever made, although also it's smart. But 2001 it's a vision of something else you can do with a movie camera, than you're used to seeing. So I hope that you will stick with it and give it a shot. So with that in mind, let's get started kind of talking about this thing. This basic structure of these seems like I've got a sense of what I'm doing here. We're going to look at some technical stuff. We're going to usually when you go see a movie, what people want to talk about is what happened in the movie, like it's an alternate universe. So people will go, oh, Captain America, he attacked Thanos, and why did he do that? And why did Thanos do this? And how do we explain this? The way this character acted, or this spell that Doctor Strange cast, or whatever. That all treats movies. When you ask a question like, can Superman fly? Is Superman faster than the Flash? That's a question that a person in Metropolis or Star City can ask. The cities where these things take place. I think it's Star City. Look it up. The point is that it's a question. When you ask a question like, "Can Superman go faster than the Flash?" You're asking a question as if you are a citizen in the world where Superman and Flash live, but you're not. You live here, and you didn't find out about Superman and Flash by seeing them. You found out about them by going to the movies, or TV, or comics, or whatever. The point is they're works of art. They're creations of somebody made them. And so the key question you got to ask, and this is a question students do not like to talk about, but the key question you got to ask is, why was the thing made the way it was, and what do audiences get out of it? And usually students, I find in my experience, don't like talking about that. I'll tell you a quick story. This is going to sound like I'm making fun of my student, but I'm not. I'm actually really glad she said this because it really taught me something about the way students think, because it seemed representative. I was talking about the movie The Lion King, the first Lion King, the one from the 90s. Um, uh, my students refer to the other Lion King as the live action Lion King. Oh my God, it's not live action. It's that whole thing in a computer. Um, I mean, I know it looks live action, but it's not. Just a fancier kind of cartoon. Um, one of my students said, I was teaching about language and about how people will judge you based on your accent. If you have a Southern accent, for example, I grew up in Texas, people will think you're stupid because a lot of people have stereotypes. Southerners are stupid, and right, people will judge you based on your accent. They think they know things about you. So I asked my students, hey, when you watch The Lion King, have you ever noticed that Mufasa, who is the good king, has a rich American accent? He sounds like a masculine American guy. And his brother Scar has a British accent, but it's not just British. It's like it's upper class British, and it's like feminine. It's a male voice, but it's like a man doing an impression of a woman. It's a kind of like a, oh yes, of course, darling. Yes. Um, it's a, and I asked my students, why? Why do these guys, why would brothers have totally different accents? And one of my students raised her hand, and I had a lesson about accents and how people judge it based off accents. And one of my students said, maybe they were raised by different fathers in different households, and that actually that there were two fathers and one mother, and the two brothers were raised in different households, and so they each took the accent of the father in that house, and maybe that's why they don't get along, because the mother, they're jealous of the other dad, and it was fascinating. It was not what I was looking for as an answer at all, but it was a fascinating answer to me, because do you see what she did? She answered the question I was asking with additional story. She essentially made the story of the Lion King longer by adding a whole backstory, like a prequel, about where these guys came from. And I get that, but it's an answer that treats the fictional world as if it's real. So if you met a person and they had two different accents, you might start thinking like that. But this is a movie, so the question isn't how did the lions grow up that resulted in having them have different accents. The question is, why did the people that made the movie give them different accents, and what do audiences get out of it? In my experience, students don't like to ask questions like this because they prefer, again, movies are an escape into another world, and they prefer to treat that world like it's real. That's not what you can do that in class, by the way. Totally fine, reasonable. I'm not asking you to stop analyzing characters as if they're real people. I do it all the time. You're going to see me do it in here. What I need you to do is to add on. Keep talking about characters like they're real, but then also add on why. But it's made by somebody, and somebody's watching it in the movie theater. So why did they make it like this? And what do people get out of it? By the way, the answer I was looking for with the Lion King. Why does the good king sound like a masculine American, and why does the evil brother sound like a sort of upper class, effete gay man? And the answer is very sad. But I think a lot of audiences, the primary audience for The Lion King in the mid '90s is Americans. So they have the good guy sound like an American, meaning sound like the target audience. And they have the bad guy sound like things Americans don't like. Well, Americans don't like the British, and they don't like rich people, and they don't like gay people, and they don't really like women that much. And so if you have a guy who sounds like he's gay, or sounds womanish, and he's British, and he's upper class, these are all things we don't like. And so it's a way of the director gave them these accents to communicate to the audience, this one's the bad guy, this one's the good guy. Unfortunately, it's based off of stereotypes that are sexist, racist, homophobic, but that's the sad answer. That's what we're doing in this class, is we're going to look at the things and go, why is it made like this? Which means instead of, the key question, we're going to be focusing, I mean, obviously we're going to be like, what the fuck is going on in 2001: A Space Odyssey? But we're also interested is, why is it built the way that it is? Why is the story told the way that it is? So anyway, that's the journey that we're going on, which means we will be asking questions like, can Superman go faster than the Flash? But we're also interested in a very different set of questions that my students are not used to asking, which is, why is the camera here and not somewhere else? Why is this piece of music selected and not a different piece of music? Why does the lighting look like this? How come we change scene? Why is it that we jump from a bone to a spaceship suddenly with a hard edit that doesn't even have a little 100,000 years later? Like, why? Those are the questions we want to look at, in addition, not instead of, in addition to those questions about, why the fuck did that guy do that? What's wrong with his psychology? Because you're totally still allowed to talk about them like they're real people and it's a separate world. That's a good baseline, but I need you to put on top of that a level where we're talking about why it's made the way it is. So, get ready to get started on 2001: A Space Odyssey.